Hi, I'll just take the time to introduce myself. I'm Mimingonskwa Dishnakasmakwa. I'm Butterfly Woman from the Bear Clan. My name is Chantel Chadwick. My mother is Anne Chadwick, and I'm from the Lemure descendant. Today I'm going to show you how to stitch a beaded poppy. Today we're going to use all my items that I use to bead. I purchased from the museum. I use the Pellion to bead onto. I make my pattern. This is my template that I start with, and then I make the pattern on the Pellion, and then I start by beading my centerpiece, and then we continue on and we'll bead the petals, and then we will use a pin that I also purchased at the museum, and we'll sew it to the back of a piece of hide or felt. I purchased my hide from the museum as well. I will also be using the size 10 seed bead, the medium red, as well as the size 10 black. And then once we're done beading everything, we'll put our backing with our pin and we'll glue it to our poppy, and then we'll bead our edges, and then you'll have a finished poppy. I also use the black thread that I purchased from the museum, the red thread, and my mom made me these reusable little thread holders, and I also use the white. And then we also need our needles. I use size 11 beading needles that I buy from the museum. I also have my little tray that I hold all my beads together in. Yes, my colors are mixed, as it just gets that way. So we're going to start. I already have my black thread and needle. You can tie it off at the end with a knot, or you can just leave it like that, because you can also, if you don't want to use a knot at the end of your thread, if you burn it a little bit, then you're able to, it sort of sticks. I always start in the center of our poppy. So we're going to come up from the bottom straight through the top. We're going to sort of go off center just a little bit. So when we put our first bead into place, it'll lay flat once we stitch back through. See how it just becomes hard, your thread. Excuse me. So our first bead is going to be 1 seed bead black, size 10. Your needle will get bent out of shape. That's just the way that it molds to your fingers, I guess, as you're working. Okay, so I've started in the bottom. I've come up through the top. I took my 1 seed bead. Stitch that into place, and you can see we're going to start there. Now we're going to come up in the exact spot that we started so that we secure our bead into place. gives it a little bit more security from what I've experienced with my own beading. Now we're going to take, I always use 2 beads at a time. Some people use 4. It all depends on what you're comfortable with. I don't use the 2 needle. I haven't been able to, I tried, but it just, my threads would get tangled up and then I would get frustrated. So maybe at a later date I'll try that. So now we're going to take our 2 beads and we're going to sort of lay it flat, try to hold it into place, and you're going in from the top down through to the bottom, just like we did at the beginning. And we're going to pull our thread through. You might get tangled if your thread is too long. So if you're just starting, I was taught that you use shorter amounts of thread. You'll be changing your needle quite often, or rethreading your needle, sorry. So I just try to take my time and just go slow, and it doesn't get knotted on me. And then, okay, so we came from our bottom, coming up through our top, because we're going to go through those 2 beads that we just put on. I don't know if you can see me here. Pull this down a little bit. Oh, there, that's better. So we're going through the 2 beads that we just put on. Sometimes you have to get them into place. And then we'll get that, and then we'll do 2 more. I'm very grateful for this opportunity that the museum and Katie have extended to me. I'm a new member. I've lived up in Northern Ontario all my life, the Timmins area. Born in London, but raised up north. And it was time for a change in our lives. I was on a healing journey to better my children's lives as well as my own. And I made it to Pembroke, and we've settled here. I've just become status, which I'm very grateful for, and that I've been accepted and welcomed. So now we've we've had 4 of our beads on our poppy. So we'll finish off this circle, and I'll show you see, it all falls flat into place once you pull your threads through. So I'll finish off my black circle center, and I'll show you what it looks like. And we're just doing 2 beads in through the top, up through the bottom. So I finished that 1 circle. So I'm going to come through my last 2 beads and go through the first one that I started with on that round. Now I'm just going to take my needle and my thread, no beads this time, come down from underneath, and then we're going to start up again. It just gives it that extra secure. So now you see how I have gone from the underneath up into the up top, and then we'll start our next round. Okay, so now we're coming to the end of the circle, and with 2 beads I won't have enough, so I put 3 beads on to finish my circle. I was a little off when I was getting my centerpiece, but that's okay. So that's what it's going to look like when you're done with your centerpiece. Now we're going to go back up through the top and secure your last 2 beads, and remember you're going to go through your 2 beads plus the first one that you started with. So we're going back through 3 beads to finish it off. And then we're going to go back through the top to the bottom so we can burn off, because we're going to be changing our thread now. I also have a pair of frisky scissors. Then I'm just going to burn the rest of the thread underneath, blow it out before it gets right to the bottom and burns away on you. And then that'll stick into place. Now we're going to use our red thread that I buy. This is the Miyake thread. It's a 50 millimeter, is that what that says? 50 meter. I think I paid $5 for it. So I have my thread through the needle already, and I've tied off my end with a knot this time. It doesn't matter if you put a knot in it or if you burn it, because there's going to be the leather that's on the back of it, and you won't see them. Now this one I didn't mark my patterns, so I'm just going to mark the pattern here just to keep me in line with each petal and keeping it looking neat. I like to bead each petal by themselves. Some people just go in the pattern and continue going around, so it's all one. Looks like it's one big petal. But I've made a couple that I really think that each individual petal beaded is very beautiful. So we're going to come up through the bottom on the outside of our circle, so it'll be easy for you to see because you have your stitches in the back. And you're going to come up, and I usually start on a line, and that gives me a good idea of how far I have to go and keep in line with the pattern. So now my thread is through the top. I'm going to add my 2 beads, and now I've moved over to the red medium bead, the medium dark red, sorry. And we're going to just let that fall down into place, and we're going to sew in again from the top down underneath, pulling our thread through all the way. Move your beads into place. I always use my finger to help me keep my thread out of the way so I don't get caught up and start a tangle for myself. And then we're pulling back through the top, and then pull your finger out. Now we're going to go through our 2 beads again to keep them a little bit extra secure in place. Now some people also use it's a 1 needle stitch. They'll put 7 beads on their thread, and then they'll go through, and then they'll go back around and secure each or every second bead that they have. So, but like I said, I like to do just 2 at a time so that I can keep things in place, and because I'm just a beginner. I only started this crafting journey in 2018, when I was grateful to be welcomed to the Smoke Sensation group that they have to help people, kick the habit. I did a 3-day workshop. I learned a lot of information. Learned a lot of stuff that was mind-boggling, and I quit. Also, I was in the mindset that yes, it was time to quit. It wasn't good for me, it wasn't good for my children, and it cost a lot of money to smoke. So now I've taken my next 2 beads, and I've got a little tangle here. I can see. I'll just show you. I don't know if you'll be able to see. There's a little bit of a hoop here. So I'll pull it out just to see what was going on. And it's a little knot that happened. Or not a little knot, a little twist, I guess. So now it's all good. I've pulled it through, and we'll continue on with our next 2 beads. And I'll do this whole petal like that, 2 beads in and out from top to bottom. And then if we run out of thread, we'll just start where we left off. I'll finish off this little bit of thread that I have, and then I will show you how I rethread and restart to stitch to bead. Okay, hi everybody. Now I've gotten around with the same thread, and I have about that much left. I can continue to try to bead another couple on, and then we're going to switch over and take a new thread and rethread our needle. So I'm just going back through. See, I came through the top. Now I'm back underneath. Gonna go back in and go back up to where I started for these 2. Pull it a little bit tight, and then go back through. Now this is where we're gonna go through and cut our thread away from our needle from underneath, because there's not much left, so it's gonna start to get hard to go in and out. So we're gonna go back through our bottom, pull tight, and then I'm gonna cut it. So let's see, it's left a little bit of a string here. You can see it there. I'll take my lighter. Excuse me. I'll burn. Blow, and then just, stick it into place. So I'll thread my needle, and then we'll come back and start beading again. Okay, so I have my thread and my needle, and now we're just gonna come through, pull it, and remember, the longer that you make your thread, the more chances you have to tangle. But if you're not in a rush and you take your time, you don't get too many tangles. I noticed when I'm rushing, then I have more problems because I'm not paying attention to the tension I'm pulling and make sure that my threads are straight and even. And so now I'm just going to bring my ends together, hold them together, and slide my finger down so that I can get my needle into place, so that I have an even start when I come back up. So now that we're going to start again, we're going to go back up through the pillion 3 beads back. So you see 3 beads back. We're going to pull it through, but just remember that if you didn't tie a knot, you have to burn it and make sure that it stays in place. So I'll burn mine. And it's secure now. And we're back through. Now we're going to go through those 3 beads to give us a secure start. You can do 2 beads if you'd like. It always changes. Sometimes I do 2, sometimes I do 3. So now that we've gone through, we have our new thread to continue on to finish our petal. So I will finish this one, and hopefully by then we'll be able to change our thread and move on to the second petal, and we'll be showing you how to do that. So remember, we're taking our beads and we're going in from the top down through the bottom, and then we're going to come back up from the bottom, and then back through our 2 beads. Another thing that I do also is I'll trim my corners so that they're a little bit less sharp, so that your thread doesn't get tangled on them. So see how I've done that? I just cut the corners off a little bit. So when we first started, we were a square, and now we'll just turn it up, cut it in a circle, and then we'll continue beading. Okay, I'm down to my last 2 beads, and then we're going to finish off this petal here, and then move on to the next one. So I put my last 2 beads into place, and I'll just double stitch and secure them. So just like that, we're going to double stitch and pull our thread tight. Now I have a little bit of thread left, so I'm going to go under, put it back through the top, down into the bottom, and I'm just going to, I'm not going to thread it quite yet. I'm just going to go up and start my second petal with this same thread. So see, and now I'll start beading my second petal, and then I'll do my third petal, and then we'll come back and we'll finish off our last petal together, and then do our backing and finish up our poppy. Okay, so this is where I'm at now. I've gone and I've done 2 extra petals, and I'm just finishing off my last petal now. And you can see with each petal they have their own little pattern inside. So I'll finish off this part of the petal. It's a 2 bead in from the top down through to the bottom, and then we'll finish off with our petal, and then we can do our pin, get that ready, and then get your, I use a hot glue gun. You could use what is it, EO85 or something like that, anything that'll hold it. Even white school glue would work. So we'll finish off our petal, and then we'll start our edging and our pin secured to the back of the. Alright, so I'll try and do the last little bit of this petal. Ooh, okay, I lost those ones. While showing you the two bead, the stitch. So hopefully you've made it through one petal. Everything takes practice. I know that my beading is not the best, but it's the best that I can do. Everything takes practice, and over time I see that with life, anything that we do and we take the time and do it over and over, we get better at it. And I'm grateful for the teachers who taught me how to bead and told me their stories while teaching me how to bead. So I'm very grateful to have been given that opportunity. So we just line up our beads and try and get them as straight and in his place as possible, and then just keep going up in from the top and then back up from the bottom. And then we're going through every second or third bead to secure the new beads, or the beads that we've just put on, and allow for the new beads that are coming on to have their own strength also. And as you get down to the center of your petal, sometimes you're not going to be able to do a complete curve. So you'll just have to go in and go to the end, and then start going in the opposite direction, and it'll all flow together once your beads fall into place and you've done that last stitch. My needle's getting a little bit wonky or crooked or molded to the way I work, to my fingers. I hope that I was able to get you through beading your own poppy so that you have it year after year, but you're still able to donate to the Legion, to the military, so that our veterans and our soldiers are given what their needs are, while helping to protect each of us. I'm grateful for the family members and friends that have fought for us and given me everything that I have today, and the abilities for freedom of speech and my rights. So now I'm just going to go back through the beads and come out and pick up a couple more beads, and we should be finishing up this petal. And then we can go on to cutting out and tracing our pattern on of the poppy onto the leather or felt, whatever you have available. Like I said in the beginning of the video, I use the Pellion as my base to bead on, and then I use a hot glue gun to secure the back of the poppy to the leather. After I have sewn on the pin and gotten that ready, see, I have one too many beads, so I'll just take that bead, let it slide off, secure that one into place, and then I think maybe 4 more beads and we'll be done this petal. I want to say thank you to Katie for giving me this opportunity to allow each of you into my circle and learn a little bit about me, and hopefully me teach you how to bead a poppy. So now I'll pick up the last 2 of 4. It might be just 2 that we need. I'm just judging. Sometimes I don't judge very well if I'm not wearing my glasses. Yeah, we're gonna need 4. 2 more there. Sometimes to help cover up the white or whatever color your background is, you could always use a pencil crayon and color in the bottom of your beading, or of your template, sorry, before you start beading, so that you don't see the white coming through, or the whatever color of background you're using. I think it gives it a little bit of contrast, maybe you can say. And it just shows that there's a lot of work put into the poppy. So I'm doing my last 2 beads. I'm going to tuck those in to put them into place. I'm going to come down through the top into the bottom. Now we're going to come back up. My needle. Okay, so now we're back through. Now I'm going to go through all those beads that I just put on, just to give those last 2 the extra security, so that it lasts a lifetime. And I know the person who's going to wear this poppy will be so grateful that she has the opportunity to wear something that was crafted from the heart for her. So now we're going to just cut our thread. We're going to burn the end of it. Now we're just going to cut out our pattern a little bit so that we can have the look, and it's not just the inside that has the whole detail. So we'll trim it up around the edges. Then I'm going to go to each section and do an indent to allow the look of each petal. And you have to be careful because of where you stitch in the back. You don't want to cut too low, because if you cut your stitch, then your beads will come apart. And I learned that lesson, and it was a real tough one, because I was making hair ties for my daughter's regalia 2 years ago. Okay, so now that I've cut, you can see just where I've cut a little bit of in between each petal. We're going to take our poppy. You're going to take your leather, and I just fine at the museum. I'm going to judge a piece that's going to fit the poppy and give me the room to do the edge. Now I'm going to just trace the poppy on to the leather, and I'm going to have the shiny side out. So I'll just take my pen, trace around the poppy, and then we'll cut the pattern out. I'll turn on my glue gun, and then we'll pin the leather, or sew the pin to the leather, and then we'll glue the poppy to the leather that has the pin sewn onto it already, and then we'll edge our poppy. So once I secure the needle, I will show you. Okay, so I have my thread and my needle, I have my pin, and I have my leather. Now, all you want to do is take your pin and put it, try and get it centered in between each edge of your leather. And then you're going to take your needle and your thread, and you're going to sew from the bottom up into each of the holes that are on the pin. So you see how I'm coming up in there? I'm going to pull it through, but remember, don't pull it all the way through if you haven't knotted your end. I don't knot them, I usually just burn it. It sort of burns the thread together, and it makes it sticky. So now you're just going to go back through the top to the bottom and just keep sewing until it's secured. So I will sew this pin, and I will turn on the hot glue gun so that we can get the back of the poppy secured to the poppy itself. So you see, in and out, and then up on the other side. I secure both top and bottom. Alright, there. And then we'll finish it in a moment. So now that the 3 stitches are put on, I'll do one last stitch through and then knot it or burn it, and then we'll secure our front of the poppy to the back of the poppy. Now I know the video it's only going to be about an hour, but it takes about 5 hours to 6.5, I'm going to say, to do a poppy from start to finish. The bigger the beads you use, the less time it will take. So it all depends on, I know the museum has many sizes, and sure what size you'll be using to make your poppy, but I use a size 10. I've also used a size 15, and I've also used the square cut beads, and both turn out, all three turn out very beautiful. So now we've done the back, we'll just clip it, we'll burn it to secure it. Don't let it burn all the way because it'll just burn out on you, which happens. So now we're going to take our poppy and our trusty glue gun. I bought mine at Walmart. I'm sure you can get them pretty much anywhere. And then all you do is you just line up your pattern to fit your, excuse me, your piece that you've cut out. Usually I put a mark on the hide to show me sort of where my pattern goes, but I forgot this time, so I have to try and judge to see where it goes, where it belongs, let's say. And once you do that, then things fall into place very nicely. So I think this is where this pattern goes. So now I will I don't know. I look at, oh there, that looks much better. Okay, so that's how it's gonna go. So my glue gun has been on. Now I'll just put some glue in the center of the poppy. You're gonna put a nice dab, or if you're using a glue gun or school glue, you can use the, what is it, EO95 that the museum also sells. And then you just spread your glue out and place your poppy onto the back of your hide so that it's all in place. And then you can go around and check how loose, because you want to make sure that it's secure enough to the edges so that you're not going to, so it just doesn't fall apart. So I'll go through and glue some more of the poppy to my backing, and then I'll bead the edge. So we're going to start to bead the edge, and I use the black seed bead size 10 that I purchased from the museum. I attached the pin to the back of the leather. I also purchased at the museum. So now we're going to take our thread. I only use a small piece at a time. Hey everybody, so I'm back. I'm finished beading the one petal. We'll finish off and do the last 3 sides, and then our poppy will be finished. So I've started with a new thread. We go through the backing of our material, and then we can start beading. Our count on the edge, I use 6 of these size 10 seed beads to finish off the edging. You can use bigger, you can use smaller. It depends what you feel comfortable with. I've used a size 8 bead to edge my poppy, and it still looks very beautiful. The contrast of the two sizes of beads really works well together. So now I've got my 6 beads on, and we're going to bring it to the end of our thread, and then we're going to go into the middle here to start our next section on the poppy of our beaded edge. So that's how I do it. Sometimes if you don't cut your template properly in the back, your beads will move and fall out of place. So you just pick up another 6 row of beads and fill in that spot, and then keep carrying on. So I'll finish off the last 3 petals, and then I'll show you how I finish off the last beading stitch for our poppy. Okay, so now that I've come to the last little bit on my poppy, I'll bead it with you. We're going to pick up our 6 beads. I work with my beads on a felt. I've tried a designer bead palette thing that they sell at Michael's and so on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, one more bead. And I just find that I'm more comfortable just working with felt. Yeah, it gets hairy sometimes, but it does the trick, and it works for me. So that's what counts. So now I've taken my 6 beads, and we're just going to come around and make our edge. It's nothing fancy. I know there is another stitch that you could use that it shows, it looks like you have a bead up and connected, and one more here. So this is how I was taught. I'm starting to venture out online to see how their, different beading patterns go, or the different stitches that are out there. I just learned how to do the peyote stitch and made myself a lanyard, and I enjoyed that. It was very beautiful. So now I'm taking my last row of beads, and then I'm going to finish off the poppy, and then I will display it proudly over the next couple of weeks for everybody who's taken, time and fought for our freedom and so on. So now after every once I'm done each poppy, I do smudge it and pray, to the Creator, and to guide and watch over the person that's going to be proudly displaying my beading. And so now that we're done, we're going to just take our scissors, we're going to cut our thread, we're going to take our lighter, we're going to burn our thread down, and then press it, and then you'll see it sort of like it burns. It gives a little bit of and then your poppy is all done, and then you'll be able to display it, and there you go. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope I'm able to help you through making your poppy. Chimigwich.